Hey folks, Nick here from Another BookTube channel, and today I'll be reviewing A Simple Plan by Scott Smith. This is I would say, crime thriller, and it was indeed very thrilling and just full of crime. I gotta tell you right now, I love this book. I thought this was fantastic. I was familiar with this already because, as you could tell from this terrible cover, there was a movie adaptation of this, directed by Sam Raimi, which I've seen once many, many years ago. I'm talking at least 15 years. I didn't remember much about it other than I thought it was good, but I was probably also nowhere near like mature enough to really appreciate it. So I plan to revisit it now that I finished this and loved it. Because it's such a great idea, and I think it probably works really, really well as a movie. I kind of see it as a Coen Brothers movie, to be honest, but Sam Raimi is probably also a good director for that. I know Sam Raimi and the Coen Brothers are good friends with each other, so they have a little bit of crossover there. But let me tell you a little bit about the story, and you'll see exactly what I mean about it being kind of Coen Brothers-esque. So, A Simple Plan follows Hank, his brother Jacob, and Jacob's best friend Lou. One day they are out driving and they get sidetracked on the road for whatever reason, and walking deep into the forest, they find a downed, like, single passenger plane. They inspect the wreckage, they find the dead body, and they also find a duffel bag with a little over $4 million cash. And they decide to take the money, but they have to make sure that they do so in a smart way that makes sure they're not going to get caught. And so they devise a simple plan to just have one of them hold the money for 6 months, enough time for the plane to be discovered, for it to be looked into, just to make sure that nobody's looking for the money. And then if at the end of that 6 months, the case is closed, then they could divvy it up and, enjoy their newfound wealth. The remainder of the book is proving the irony of the title A Simple Plan, because nothing is simple. Things go bad really quickly, and they just continue to get worse. And it is riveting. It is truly thrilling because what I mean by Coen Brothers-esque is what they do so well, and what Scott Smith does so well here. I'm talking about the Coen Brothers, like they wrote this. They didn't. Scott Smith wrote this, and what he does so well is taking very ordinary people, believable people, just like you and me, putting them into an extraordinary circumstance where, like, they dip their toe into the world of crime and immediately find themselves way in over their heads. This was like Fargo is like the big example of that from the Coen Brothers. And even the TV show, continues that tradition. And it is so well done here. And what's really interesting is that all three of these characters, Hank, Jacob, and Lou, are all morons. They're all terrible at this. But because the book is only from Hank's point of view, he's constantly justifying his own actions, and we're seeing how he's placing blame on the other two, his paranoia about them not being trustworthy. He tells Lou immediately, like, you can't tell your girlfriend about this. But meanwhile, he went home and right away told his wife, like, instantly. And having her know about it adds to just the escalation of events as well. So what we're doing is we're spending time with Hank this entire time, just seeing that the hypocrisy of his actions and his words, and the descent of this otherwise very ordinary man who has never taken a wrong step in his life, trying to become this, like, criminal mastermind while still pretending that he's not. That he's doing it for noble purposes, for his daughter who's about to be born in a month, you know. That's a great idea, and that idea works so well because as a reader, it puts you in the position of the characters, where you start to think, "What if this had happened to me?" Because something that I kept thinking about was every decision they made seemed so stupid. Like, why would you do that? Like, how is that the decision that you reached? Every time, it's just like, oh God, why did you do that? Oh no, why did you do that? But rather than feeling like, you know, when you see a person in a horror movie like drop the knife that they should hold on to protect themselves, this just felt it felt a lot more authentic, because after a while I realized, as I was criticizing their actions and thinking about how I would do it, I'm proving the point of the book by doing that, because I consider myself to be a good person. Like, I would never do anything like this. And yet, if I did find $4 million in the woods, and I'm thinking about how would I get away with it? Like, what would I manipulate? What would I do to make it so that I could get away scot free? And if it were to happen, I would mess up too. I would absolutely make the wrong decision. I would absolutely make things worse in trying to protect myself or protect my family. Uh, and that was a great realization for me while reading this, where I was like, oh no, I'm just as stupid as them for thinking I could do it better. I just thought that was exceptional. And I think what separates this story from other ones that I can think of about, you know, regular people who accidentally get involved in crime stuff is that they don't actually have to do anything. Like Hank, Jacob, and Lou, the plan is to do nothing. It cannot get more simple. Like, if you think of like Breaking Bad, Walter White still needed to know chemistry. He needed to be a genius. He needed to know how to make meth. They don't have to do that. And so when you're putting yourselves in these characters' shoes, like, yeah, you can pretend like, oh, if I was Walter White, this is what I would do. But you're not Walter White, because you don't know chemistry the way that he does, most likely. But with these characters, it's easy to put yourself in their shoes, because all they have to do is literally nothing. It's just that's what makes it such a much stronger connection and much stronger story in this case. As far as the escalation of events and just the suspense of like, will they get caught, won't they? Scott Smith masterfully is portraying that point of no return. Like, you can sense, like, palpably the scene building towards this crescendo, and then once it reaches that point, knowing that, like, okay, there is no way back now. Like, things just have to proceed, because you took this step, so you have to take the next one. It is truly just downhill, no brakes. Like, things go so wrong, and there's no other way for them to have gone when your characters are so sure of themselves and yet so stupid. It was just wonderful. I thought this book was terrific, and even though there were moments where I felt like, you know, we weren't making some forward progress, we Hank would take some time to think about, you know, his childhood or his parents. Smith would find ways to take those thoughts that Hank was having and eventually relate it to something that he's going through now. So the payoff's not immediate. You think like, oh, why are we kind of spending time on this? And then eventually it's like, oh, there's metaphor there. Like, there's familiarity between that and this, and it's a great book. I can't recommend it enough. My arbitrary and subjective grade for A Simple Plan by Scott Smith. Should I give it a 10 out of 10? I don't know. I kind of want to say 9 out of 10, and I want to give that opportunity to grow in my mind over time. Maybe if I recorded this next week rather than 20 minutes after I finished it, it would be a 10. I'm going to say right now a 9. I'll say right now a 9, but I loved it. And I think if you like, you know, crime thrillers, if you like ordinary people getting into extraordinary circumstances, this is absolutely for you. Great book. Let me know if you've read it, and let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below. Thank you very much for spending some time with me today, but now it's time to get back to reading.